Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know. This is the first episode in a very long time where there's going to be no box score. Feels kind of weird. At least I can't rant and rave for 15 minutes without, going off track. Probably be a little bit better, the show. So, let's start with all the coaches that we've interviewed so far. We've interviewed Dennis Allen, Eric, the enemy as he's called in Kansas City, Vic Fangio, Brian Flores, John Harbaugh. We're considering a trade. We didn't interview John Harbaugh. Mike Munchak, Chris Richard, and Darren Rizzi have all been the coaches that we have looked at. So yeah, this is a very interesting list. There's a couple of coaches here that I just don't think I'm really against. Like, I would be pretty upset if we hired one of them. I have problems with most of these guys. Some major problems with most of these guys. Number one, Brian Flores. We all know, even Josh McDaniels himself, and he was really young when he left New England for the first time. That usually doesn't work. For the most part, it never works. I can't really think of one that it did, where somebody left the Bill Belichick coaching tree, and it worked somewhere else. It has more to do with Bill and Tom than it does anything else. I mean, Matt Patricia's not really getting off to a hot start. His first start in Detroit has been pretty bad. Him being late in coaching meetings and stuff like that is just weird. So anybody who comes from that coaching tree, I'm super, it's like, how much of a difference can you make? They've had so many coaches over the years you talk about. I mean, I guess Bill O'Brien's the best one that's come out of that organization. Maybe I'm forgetting someone, but it's just it's very much Tom and Bill show in New England. Bill has created something that nobody's ever really been. Well, no one has even come close to recreating in the salary cap era. Not even close. So I just don't. Just huge red flags for me there. I just don't think he brings anything. I don't think he elevated anything when he was in New England. I don't think he did something. He didn't take a positional group. He just basically has done the same thing that any other coach has done since they've been there with Bill and Tom. I mean, that's what Matt Patricia did a year ago with that New England defense. Bend but don't break. He's doing the same thing. I really don't think he's put his fingerprint on that team whatsoever. So I don't know what he's bringing to the table if I hire him to the head. What do you do special? Other than you just rode the coattails of New England. So that's my problem with him. Dennis Allen, obviously, I don't even have to say it. I mean, my God, why the heck would we even do? And the thing to top it all off, the only reason we interviewed him is because Jeff Ireland recommended it. Okay? Like, I don't know how we're supposed to take that. He had one good draft in his entire career. I mean, he drafted Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore. I guess Marcus Davenport, he's not been terrible, but they gave up a lot for him, and he hasn't really lived up to it. I mean, Bradley Chubb has been leaps and bounds better if they really wanted an edge rusher. So I don't know what that had to do with Dennis Allen. I just don't. I mean, we went there because of Jeff Ireland. Out of all the people on the planet Earth, that's why we went there. It's just so stupid. And Dennis Allen, I trust him more than I do Brian Flores, and that's actually saying something. I mean, he has done a good job with that defense. I think it has more to do with the way that the Saints play. I mean, they jump up early on you. They actually do have pretty good personnel. They've drafted pretty well. I mean, they have Marcus Williams. This is all from really one draft. Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore. They got, Von Bell back. I don't know, is it Von Bell? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Cameron Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore. What's the kid in the middle? Sheldon Rankins? I think I'm thinking. The kid. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that. I know that makes me sound like an idiot. It's just a tick I have, I guess you could say. I don't know why I do that. I think it's because every sports show on the planet, everybody's like 80 years old and they use the word kid a lot. That's probably why. But Dennis Allen, for obvious reasons, I don't trust him. His stint in Oakland was pretty bad. But credit is due. I mean, the man has done it, but I think it has more to do with that Saints offense and the way that they play games, if they had to rely on their defense, they wouldn't win a lot of games at all. So it's not like their defense is doing anything special. I just think they feed off the offense. Vic Fangio, I think, is another great. I mean, his scheme has. I mean, he hasn't really gone onto the map. I mean, last year he did. I'm not this season, but the past season he did. But he had a good scheme going, but he still had pretty good personnel. I think it's just a testament to how good they've drafted. I think his personnel overshadow his scheme. I really do believe that. I mean, when you have Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd, Hakeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, Amos. The personnel is ridiculously good. So I think you could throw any defensive coordinator there besides Matt Burke and have a pretty successful defense. I just don't really. I mean, last year he did a pretty good job. He had less talent, but I know he carried over from the John Fox thing. I know a lot of people like it. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see what he did to really elevate his players to that level. Or just do a really outstanding coach job. He just had really good personnel. And, I mean, he used them the right way. I'm not saying, but it's not like he elevated anything or did anything special. So there I have some questions, but obviously he coaches a really good defense in Chicago. It's smart. He doesn't overly do anything. He doesn't stick. I mean, you think about Greg Williams and even Dennis Allen, they blitz almost every time because they can. Greg Williams did that in New Orleans. He hasn't stopped doing it. Dennis Allen can do it. He can be aggressive like that because his offense is so good. So I just don't think they do anything super special. It's just, I don't know. They don't elevate the talent on it. It's just, I don't really see the outstanding coaching job there. I think it has more to do with personnel department to really credit what Chicago has done. John Harbaugh, I love. I think he's Mr. Consistency. He gets his team prepared. Week in and week out. He's had to deal with some pretty poor quarterback play and some bad luck. That's the reason he's missed the playoffs so many times. And obviously he has one of the youngest, I think the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL to play a playoff game, and he still almost pulled it out at the end. So I like John. I think he's a good head coach. I think he's proven it. So, yeah, but I'm not giving up a first. I've seen some people say you have to give up a first. I'm not giving up a first. This next head coach, Mike Munchak, I mean, he had a stint in Tennessee. He was a below 500 coach, and he really never turned that franchise around or changed the program. And he was actually up there in age, and he had seen some football at that point. So I really don't believe in that. And he's going to Denver anyway, so good luck with that. I just don't see it. Chris Richard. Now, this is where there's only two candidates that I actually feel comfortable with on this list. John Harbaugh, I'm not giving up all that for a coach. But the last two, and especially one that seems burnt out lately, there's just something off about the Harbaugh. I question their commitment. Like, if we traded for John, how long is he actually going to coach? And is he 100% in? Like, there's just question. It just feels like they're not all there. It's like in 2 or 4 years, if it doesn't work, like, are you going to be in and out? Like, you got to be all in, bro. I want someone young who's shown talent in the past that wants it. And I just don't think either one of the Harbaughs really seem like they want it all that much. But yeah, Chris Richard, I don't know why I went back to Harbaugh, but Chris Richard I love. I've done some research. Well, I sound like I'm a ding. I haven't done anything special but use Google. But Chris Richard, I've read some things. I've heard some articles. I think obviously he coached Legion of Boom, but when he got to Dallas, he helped shape that defense into what it is. Literally, the personnel change that he did to change Byron Jones from safety to corner, the way he's coached him up, it's amazing. He said he did an interview where he said he couldn't wait to work with Dallas because of Byron Jones, because he had this big plan for him and to play corner. And look where that's gotten him. I mean, he's one of the best corners in the National Football League. And what he's done with that defense is special. I mean, there's talent there. I mean, it's not ridiculous amounts of talent. I think their two best players are probably their linebackers. And then you have, obviously, Byron Jones there, DeMarcus Lawrence. But he everywhere he goes, he makes a difference. He coaches that defense well. He coaches corners well. Everybody who you ask or not who you ask, but because I'm not there. I'm not in Arlington, Texas, asking coaches. But if you watch interviews, all the players love playing for him. I watched a lot of old school Seattle stuff where players were talking about him because I had some concerns because I do remember that blow up on the sideline between him and Richard Sherman. I didn't know if he was a part of that toxic locker room that got so toxic that they basically had to disassemble the entire team. So I didn't know if he had anything to do with it. He didn't, coming to find out. So everywhere he goes, he makes a difference. He's a smart coach, very high energy. If you have watched, I recommend anybody go watch his Mic'd Up. Funny thing is a lot of Cowboys fans want him as their next head coach, which is pretty funny. But everything that I've seen from him, everything that I've read, he's elevated places where he got there. Now you might say, well, hey, you just pointed out that Vic Fangio had all talent, and so does if you look at this Dallas defense from this year from last year, and Ron Marinelli, I can never say his name right, has done a good job of coaching the defensive line for a while. I didn't mean to hit the mic, sorry. But I really think Chris, the way he calls defenses, I love. It's not overly aggressive. I think he just really, there's nothing special. It's not a Rex Ryan, exotic blitzes. It's just old school football. They don't do anything special. They just coach their players well. And that's what John Harbaugh does. I mean, obviously this past week with the defense that they have is completely different. And it is very special and unique. But usually they just coach and prepare their team the best possible way they can. And that's what I really appreciate about Chris. It just seems like the team's always prepared. They don't even do anything flashy. They just play football the right way. I like the way his defense plays. I like the way I like how high energy he is. I think the one thing, I didn't mean to hit the mic again. Can he do that with the defense, and can he just be a head coach? It's the whole Adam Gase thing again. He's very talented. Everybody loves playing for him, but can he just be a head coach? Is he going to lean towards one side or the other? I think is the biggest question mark I have for him, because head coach is a completely different animal. You're not just coaching the defense anymore. You're coaching everybody. You got to make sure the entire team is prepared. That's what a head coach is. And it has to be your flavor of ice cream, the way that you want it. Can Chris do that with both sides? I think that's the biggest question mark with him, because the defensive players love him. It's very Darren Rizzi-esque. Everybody loves playing for him. Everybody loves him. He changes wherever. Even Ron Marinelli talked about how he was godsend. I know I'm butchering his name. I cannot say this man's name for some reason. And he called defenses all year for them, and he's coached them to one of the best defenses in the National Football League. And I'm not saying. I mean, they have a lot of super young players, by the way. And I feel like I'm chasing my tail. I really like Chris. I just don't. There's a huge question mark with him. Can he be a great head coach? Because we know he's a great defensive coordinator. Can he be a great head coach? Todd Bowles is the best, in my opinion, the best defensive coordinator in the National Football League. I don't think there's any, even Bill Belichick. Maybe Bill, he's not really a defensive coordinator, but Todd is he elevates he is such a good defensive coordinator. He elevated the talent when he was in New York. For all of the years that he was there, that defense was always stingy. Their offense just couldn't help him out, and their offense was just god-awful. So, but Chris is right there up there with him. And my point was bringing up Todd is he couldn't coach the entire team. He just wasn't a good head coach. But if you give him if you give him just the defense alone, he can coach it better than anybody. That's what I'm talking about, Chris. Can he do both sides? Can he be a leader of men? I think he can be, from what all the players say. But can he delegate all of the things you have to get everybody prepared. And again, it has to be your stamp has to be on it in some way. And just getting the whole team prepared. I just don't know if Chris. That's my biggest question mark with Chris. But I think, to be honest with you, he's tied for I would love Chris. I mean, he's talented, former player, played in the National Football League. Coaches, what I mean by talented, players love playing for him. I love the way his defense plays in Seattle and in Dallas. He's been under a lot of great coaches throughout his career, And he has that Pete Carroll enthusiasm, which I love, and I think the players would love too. And again, his teams always seem to be prepared. One thing I want to add before I before I leave, I want to have, I love when I say but I don't back it up when I say his teams are always prepared. If you look at the New Orleans game, I just want to give you guys, some examples. The Jacksonville game's not, I shouldn't bring that up. The New Orleans game, I keep messing up. That offense was on a tear. Now, granted, Carolina did what they did to them, but they've always played them tough ever since Drew Brees was there. So I don't really put too much stock in that. And obviously, the last game was just whatever. And they have Luke Kuechly. Anyway, the point is, what Chris did to that New Orleans defense is special. The turnover that he forced at the end of the game, the way that they covered Alvin Kamara. Now, granted, he has to have the personnel to do that, and that's something that he's going to have to. And obviously, what Chris and Steven said in their press conference was they need somebody who can work well with Chris, because Steven is nowhere going to be near the personnel decision making anymore. God bless it. He leads with his heart. He needs to stay out of it. He'll pay as much money as you need him to, but let the football people be the football people. Chris Greer has full control. The head coach is going to answer to him, so he needs someone who's going to work well with. So maybe Chris can. We just need someone to coach. We don't need someone to have a huge ego and want to be involved in the personnel decisions. We just need someone to coach the players. Now, Chris has to their football minds have to align. Like, what they want in a football team have to be the same. Obviously, you're not going to take the job, and you have to obviously have confidence in him. So, but that's a great example, in my opinion, is what he did against that. There's many more. I would have to look at their schedule, but what he did to that Saints defense or offense is special, and I think what he brought to Dallas, I don't think any other. If they had anybody else do it, that defense would not be as successful if it wasn't for Chris, in my opinion. Last but not least, I know I've been talking. We should talk about this for a while. This is a Dolphins podcast, so you know what it is. The last but not least on the coaching. This is the last. I don't know if we're gonna interview any more people. I think it's the last one. Is Coach Darren Rizzi, assistant head coach / special teams coach. Dolphins is to be interviewed. He hasn't interviewed yet. I love Darren Rizzi for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, you talk about prepared, and we see this as Dolphins fans. Everybody can. You might not have watched the Cowboys, but you probably did. They're on TV all the time. But we know the special teams, what he's done from the kicker position, for God's sakes, is amazing. He went through Andrew Franks. We saw what happened to Andrew after he was done with him. Nothing. Cody Parkey. Look what he did with Chicago. The man could have kicked him to at least a first-round bye and a playoff win. Didn't get it done. Jason Sanders, who I thought had a really good rookie season. He should make the all-rookie team, to be honest with you. Great player. Matt Hawk. He went from Matt Dart to Matt Hawk. He has an eye for talent. The special teams unit is always prepared. When we gave up a kickoff return for the touchdown against Tennessee or any great special teams play, it's a surprise, dude. He's coached so many great special teams players. He always gets the special teams prepared. Bill Belichick raves about our special teams every time we play him every single year. Darren Rizzi is a great coach, and I think he's a great head coach. I think he can delegate both sides. I don't think he'll play one side or the other. I think he can do both. Now, the downside to this is everybody's like, Kenny is simple a great coaching staff. I didn't mean to do that. That's a great question. Who is really left out there, though, for any of these head coaches? There's a lot of head coaches that need to be left to be hired. There's a lot. So, where is Darren going to go for some of these guys? Maybe... it's a tough one, man. You think about some of the great... That's tough, dude. I can't really think of anybody right now off the top of my head that I would... In terms of... Todd Bowles is not coming to Miami because Bruce Arians is coming back into coaching. He's going to go wherever Bruce goes. So, there's your defensive coordinator gone. Maybe Freddie Kitchens. He's not getting a lot of runaround in terms of the head coaching job. I'm trying to look at all. I think Cleveland's really the only one who's interviewed him. And I know a lot of people are going to want Freddie. So yeah, I think Cleveland. Now I'm looking at this list. I mean, Zach Taylor's out there in terms of an offensive coordinator. He's he went to. He was our offensive coordinator for a short amount of time when Dan Campbell was our interim coach. He did a pretty good job. We beat New England in the last game of the season with him calling plays. So that's a pretty good, interesting area we could explore. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. Zach Taylor, who else did I say? I'm just trying to look at all these names. Chuck Pagano's defensive coordinator if he wants it. Definitely won't want it, though. Once you get a taste of that head coaching job, many of these guys don't ever go back to coordinator. Especially if you're an older guy. Who the heck was I talking about Freddie Kitchens. Yeah, I love Freddie Kitchens. I mean, what he did with that Cleveland offense is literally, you talk about putting your stamp on it and elevating what you had. Freddie Kitchens did that. I mean, you can see a drastic difference between both when he was there and Todd Haley was there, and then when Freddie took over. I mean, it was completely different. So that's a very slim pull, though. I don't know what the heck I don't know what Darren's gonna do, and I don't know I couldn't guess what any of the other head coaches would do when they're hiring their staff. Who knows? I don't know what the heck Darren's gonna do. I know Darren makes good decisions. I know Darren gets his football special teams to play every single week, and I think he's just a head coach, and I think he'll work great. I don't even think he cares about personnel. Anybody you put in front of him, he's going to coach them up. And that's somebody, that's what we need, and he's really, really good at that. I mean, look at all the players that vouch for him. People like Reggie Bush, who just come out of the woodwork to support this man. That's ridiculous. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, people that hate this franchise now, not Michael Thomas, but Juice hates us, and for him to come out and support the man is ridiculous. Kenyon, I mean, to have that much player support is ridiculous. And Darren Rizzi has put his stamp on the special teams since he's been here. He elevates, he always gets them prepared, they're always well coached. That is what I'm looking for in someone that I'm about to hire. Eric Denemy, which is, I guess, his nickname. I don't know if that's not his real name. I know that's his nickname. He didn't call plays in Kansas City. If he was there or wasn't there, Andy Reid is still gonna. Patrick Mahomes is still throwing for 50 touchdowns. Look at the personnel. Look at Andy Reid. That's all of that stuff. It has nothing to do with him. He didn't do any of that. If he wasn't there, they still do that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if Darren Rizzi wasn't our special teams coach, what's one more thing that we suck at. Chris Rashad wasn't there in Dallas, their worst defense. Like, that's what I'm talking about when I'm looking for head coaching jobs. Or looking at head coaches. Like, what did you do to earn this job to get here? Other than just ride the coattails of a great football team. And I think both of those guys, especially Darren Rizzi, who hasn't rode any coattails, he's earned everything he's had. But with his personal accolades, I think he's the greatest example of that, and that's why I would love Darren. And I have no doubt in my mind that he can delegate both sides and get everybody prepared and just coach these young players up. So that's what I'm talking about, especially when we're ushering in this new era of young players. That's what I'm talking about. So there's your update in the coaching staff, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about that for 23 minutes. So yeah. But if you guys, I can't wait to have this conversation with you guys, because some of these guys are just literally on the staff, man. They're not head coach material. Dennis Allen, riding the coattails. Dude, we could get someone else in there to coach that defense. I guarantee you it'll be the exact same. Eric from Kansas City. I cannot remember the man's last name. Offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. He didn't call plays there. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce. Obviously, when Kareem Hunt was there. Andy Reid is Andy Reid. All of that would have still happened. And I know people point out, the Andy Reid coaching tree. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy. Doug Peterson is the only one that I'm like, yep, he's a great head coach. Matt Nagy has done it for 1 year. And he's literally had Vic Fangio, and that personnel that he's had in Chicago is ridiculously good. I don't know how much of that Matt Nagy has done, other than, I mean, his offense is really, really innovative and it's fun to watch. But, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, two's good. The third one, who knows if that's going to work? I just don't see it. And I'm pretty sure Matt called plays for them last year, or plays for them down the stretch of last year, and so did Doug when he was there. I could be wrong about that. I don't know. A lot of these coaches, like I said, are just riding the wave, in my opinion. And I really don't see what they did to change anything. Especially Brian Flores and some of these other... let me tell you something right now. If Brian Flores, Eric, or Dennis Allen get hired, I'm going to be a very, very depressed fan. Very depressed. Because I just know, man. Dude, that's not working out, man. It's just not working out. That's just not working out. Vic Fangio, I have huge question marks about. At the most, two of these guys are going to work out. This is just how those things. Most of these guys are going to be fired in 2 to 3 years. So the guys that I trust the most are Darren and Chris. All right, so let's move on. Next news story. Dolphins to explore trading quarterback Ryan Tannehill. If you hear snoring in the background, that's my dogs. So again, this is from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins to explore trading Ryan Tannehill. It was reported in December the Dolphins were ready to move on from starting quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Instead of just cutting the 6-year single collar, the teams expected to see what he could, if anything, fetch in a trade. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald writes, but cutting or trading the quarterback, the Dolphins would open up $13.2 million in cap space. Alternatively, they could clear out $18 million in savings by making him a post-June 1st cut. But that would come with the downside of another dead hit in 2020. While the team would like to recoup anything at all for Tannehill, attempting to find a suitor for him in a trade is tricky, according to Jackson. Talking to a veteran NFL general manager, Jackson says a team is likely to ask for Tannehill to renegotiate his contract before offering a mid-round pick. That is something the quarterback and his agent Pat Dye are likely to balk at, forcing the Dolphins to cut the quarterback and allowing him to pick his own team at the highest bidder. I really don't care how we get rid of Ryan, because I'm pretty sure 2019 is going to be a down year. And if we don't select a quarterback, I hope we get Tua. I don't want to say tank for Tua, but dude, if anything to get winning back in Miami, I don't care what it takes, dude. I'm sick and tired of it. To be honest with you, I just want a quarterback. A great quarterback. I'm talking a Hall of Fame guy that we're going to have for 15, 18, 19 years in Miami. That are going to put butts in seats. That people are going to want to watch on Sunday and Monday Night Football. That's the guy that I want. And if that takes us losing for into 2019, I mean, if that's what it takes, dude, we've been searching for one for how many years now? So I don't care what we do with Tannehill. I could care less. We're not getting free. First of all, free agents aren't going to help us this year, dude. None of them are. Unless you want to get Nick Foles to build around him and try to win now. That's not what's going to happen. Cut everybody, dude. I don't want Tannehill on the team anymore. We're moving on. I don't care. I don't care about saving money. I don't care. We're moving on and we're building through the draft. That doesn't affect that. This next This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors as well. All of these stories are. Dan Campbell not interested in Dolphins return. Saints assistant head coach Dan Campbell is not interested in returning to the Dolphins. Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald tweets, Campbell served as the Dolphins' interim head coach 2015, is still highly respected by team ownership, but he apparently does not want to go back down that road. Okay, don't care. That's not a huge loss for us. This is a very interesting story that I just wanted to throw in here. This news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Latest on Dolphins' Mike Tannenbaum. The Dolphins, this is detailing what his role actually is, in case some people are confused. The Dolphins reassigned Executive Vice President of Football Operations Mike Tannenbaum. Pause. Everybody just punch the wall if you're a Dolphins fan. That's what I almost did when I heard this news. I heard Adam Gase got fired, and then I heard Mike Tannenbaum got reassigned. I almost lost it. Earlier this week, and in turn promoted General Manager Chris Greer to oversee the club's personnel personnel department. Tannenbaum won't have any role in decision-making going forward. What does that mean? According to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald, who adds Tannenbaum likely won't be around when the draft occurs in April. Although he's still technically a member of the organization, Tannenbaum won't be doing any more work for the Dolphins. Salguero deems Tannenbaum's reassignment as something of a quote, quiet send-off. Basically, he didn't want the humiliation of being fired. So, they literally, I don't know what, I guess it's just like a quiet, like Armando said, send-off. So that clarifies it, because when the press conference came out with Steven and Chris, we just fired Adam. I was like, what the heck is, what direction are we going in? Steven said what direction we're going in. And I'm like, okay, I'm down for it, dude. I'm down to clown. At least we have something, at least we have a direction, because we haven't had one in years. And the whole power structure, how Chris is going to be the only one that the head coach answers to. Steven is going to have nothing to do with it. Chris is having full control. So I love it. I love it. So there's two people, our head coach and our GM. That's it. There's not 4 or 5 different cooks in the kitchen. God bless America. Finally something happened great. Okay? Seriously. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of the direction that we're going in. Obviously, the definition of insanity, as Stephen Ross put it, is doing the same thing over and over again. That's what we've done since he's been our owner. Trying something different and sticking to that, I think, is going to put this franchise over the top. Hopefully, it's but I have a good feeling about this. I really do, especially with the next 2 drafts coming up. This one's really, really riddled with defensive talent, especially up front. And the next one is a great quarterback draft. So in 2 years, we could really turn this franchise into something to be reckoned with. And a lot of people have come into Chris's not defense, but to support him and really putting reassurance into Dolphins fans about how respected he is around the organization. That's not something Stephen just said. He really is. A lot of former executives and executives have supported Chris when the news came down. The only thing that I will say about this whole move with Mike Tannenbaum, and obviously I wasn't a huge fan of Adam Gase being let go. I like Adam. I think he's going to be a great head coach. But the thing that I was like, ooh, that kind of hurts. But now that I've heard this Mike Tannenbaum thing, then I don't. It's not a problem anymore. It's just Chris doesn't really seem like that guy who asserts himself in a room. He doesn't seem like that guy. Like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what it's going to be. This is what it is. That's what we need him to be. Whatever he feels is the best decision to be made, Stephen hired you to do that. Please make that decision. If anybody gets in his ear, he needs to be like, no, this is what we're doing. I trust Chris. I liked our drafts the last 2 years. They've been pretty good. We just need to get a quarterback in here and a good offensive line. So hopefully we fix those issues. There's a lot of issues that we have to fix now, but I trust Chris. I trust him. I just need him to be assertive. I need him to be... He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. He doesn't seem like that alpha male. And that's something that you have to be, especially if you're the executive football operations and you're the GM, and your job is to select people. Hopefully he can pair with someone who is just right in line with what he believes in, and that will obviously make it easier for him to draft. But that's just something that I noticed, that I was like, he just doesn't really seem like, again, an assertive man. So that's really it for news. I wanted to talk... Well, the big topic today was going to be quarterbacks, but I don't know if I really want to talk about that right now. I think I'm going to switch that up. What the heck was I just thinking? I was thinking about something, and I lost my dang train of thought. But we were going to talk about something completely different. Oh, yeah. It was a hypothetical. Somebody said it was like a tweet of a beat writer or something like that. Like, how's this for a hypothetical? I think it was, and I saw it on my team stream on Bleacher Report, about Joe Flacco and John Harbaugh coming here. I'm like, oh my god, dude, I would throw up. First of all, that just is so counterintuitive to all of what Stephen Ross said. That's a very win it now mode. But I was thinking about alternate realities in the Dolphins world, and this will be very quick before we get into the fan Q&A. But what if Adam Gase never left? Steven was talking about how Adam didn't want to stay for the rebuild and how he wants to win now. So, what if he never left? And this is now, I'm not saying this would work because I probably wouldn't, but Nick Foles, the way he's played for Philly has been amazing. Now, granted, he hasn't done it by himself. He's got a pretty decent supporting cast around him. Defense plays well. The offense is obviously, he's got some talented players there, and Doug Peterson's obviously a talented play caller. So that there's a high chance of it not working out. But you think about it. I mean, let's say we go all in on Nick Foles. We give him an offensive line. We've already got the running backs set on rookie contracts. Get him some receivers. The defense will still be an issue. There's still a lot of holes to fill, so maybe it wouldn't work. But really going all in free agency, who knows what could have happened, Just something that popped in my head. It'd be interesting what your guys' thoughts would be. But I guess we'll talk about some quarterbacks before we get into fan Q. We're only, 35 minutes in? We'll talk about this very quickly, because I'm not a college scout. I don't watch a lot of college football, but since Tannehill will not be here next year, and I think it is worth it to wait till 2020 to draft a quarterback, because Tua is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. He wears number 13. He won a playoff game in Sun Life Stadium. If that isn't a dang sign, I don't know what it is. I don't know what is, seriously. But I love Tua. He is a big-time quarterback, and he's going to be very, very good on the next level. So he is that guy who puts butts in the seats. He is that guy that people want to watch on Monday and Sunday Night Football. But since they can't be drafted this year, and Kyler Murray seems like he's going to go play baseball, and what if the Dolphins and Justin Herbert went back to school? What if you had to take a hard look at it? Who would be the top quarterbacks out there? I want to say this right now. Like I just said, I don't watch a lot of college football. I only watch the big programs and the big school games every now and then. But because I'm all on NFL's my thing. I mean, that's just how I've been my entire life. But I live and breathe that stuff. But because Tannehill is for sure not going to be here next year, I wanted to look at some of the quarterbacks because it got me excited and stuff like that. So I watched a ton of two people. Dwayne Haskins. I watched a lot of Drew Lock, but I watched a lot of Drew Lock last year, so I didn't watch as much. And I got a pretty good beat on all that kind of stuff, on Drew Lock at least. And I watched a ton. Did I already say Dwayne Haskins? Oh, yeah, I think I did. But I watched a ton of Daniel Jones. Because I heard a lot of, scouts and stuff, mock draft people talk about him. So I was like, might as well go check it. And he has game tape. If you can go on YouTube and just look at Dwayne Haskins and all of the quarterbacks that are coming out, you can look at all of their game. Every snap they took, every throw that they made, it's all on YouTube if you guys want to go check it out and really decide for yourself. But I watched the Miami game. Well, I guess we'll start with Daniel Jones. And again, I'm not sold on any of these guys, but I this is intriguing stuff here. I watched Daniel Jones, and the first game I watched was the Miami game this year, and it was obviously really rainy and just really bad conditions. I felt like he missed a lot of reads in that game. His receivers dropped a ton of balls, but I was like, oh, it's probably because it was rainy. But so I was like, all right, I didn't watch any of his stuff for the rest of the day because I was like, okay, I think I've seen enough. I don't really get it. I don't see what everybody's freaking out about. I felt like he missed reads, stuff like that. There were people open he just didn't see. But I went back and I watched more, and I'm impressed, man. I'm not going to lie. His throwing motion is really nice. Now, a lot of people make his decision-making and stuff like that. I don't really see what they're talking. I mean, how he's laying on his reads and stuff. I don't really see that as much as everybody makes a huge deal of that. I don't see it like he does that on a consistent basis. I don't think it's something that I feel like he goes through his progressions pretty quick. I mean, I see his head turn all the way around all the time. I don't see him staring down people on a consistent basis. But I don't know. I'm not a dang quarterback guru, but from what I've seen from him, has been very impressive. The one thing that I've wanted to see, and I'm trying to make this as quick as possible, that I've wanted to see out of some of these quarterbacks is what is your off the script? What is your playmaking, I can conjure something out of nothing ability? Daniel Jones obviously has that. He's huge. He's a big quarterback. He can break sacks. He does that. He runs around at a good clip. super athletic guy. So he has that ability. He's also, in my opinion now, this might be blasphemous to some people, but he throws the prettiest deep ball in college football. I'm not even joking around. Just go watch him play. He throws a beautiful deep pass. A beautiful, beautiful deep pass. And you can tell that Duke knows that because they run a lot of deep posts and just deep plays and period in that offense. A lot of play action shots to utilize that part of his game. I mean, he really throws a beautiful, beautiful, accurate deep pass. And I feel like he's accurate with all the underneath stuff. His supporting cast was terrible. It reminds me of Josh Allen last year. A lot of people were like, oh, his stats aren't that great, and all this other stuff. But if you watch Josh Allen play, you could say, oh, this kid, I almost said this kid again. I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody. But you could see the like that he has it. He has that special ability. When you compare Daniel Jones' stats to especially their last year in college, they're very similar. Josh Allen threw for, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh, he doesn't have great numbers. Josh Allen threw for 16 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in his last year as a starter. Daniel Jones threw for 22 touchdowns and 9 interceptions as a starter. His quarterback rating was 131. Josh Allen's was 127. Very similar. Very, very similar. I think Josh is a better runner than Daniel is, but I think Daniel is a way better polished passer than Josh was coming out of college. If you watch Daniel Jones play and you watch a lot of his games, which I watched at least 20 of them or close to it, or maybe 15, his supporting cast is terrible. They drop so many passes, dude. So many passes that would have went for touchdowns. I mean, there was at least 4. I can't remember what game it was. I had it highlighted because I wanted you guys to go watch it. But there was a game where literally 4 big plays were dropped, like just straight up dropped. He throws a beautiful back shoulder. Talking like a 3-year-old right now. Back shoulder, beautiful back shoulder. His accuracy to me is pretty dang good. I don't get that criticism of him at all. I feel like his accuracy is really good, especially for a big dude. He gets the ball out quick. In my opinion, I don't think he holds onto the ball too long. Not a lot of people are getting open on his team. His offensive line is terrible. He can make the off-script plays. Am I sold on him? Absolutely not. His college production, again, I don't think that says anything about how good of an NFL player he'll be. There are some criticisms I have of Daniel. I feel like he's a pocket passer at heart. He really doesn't use his physical abilities to the best to the maximum of his abilities. Like Josh Allen uses every bit of every physical tool that God gave him to help him be successful in the football field. Daniel Jones, his playing style, he's more of a pocket passer. So that reminds me a little bit of Tannehill. Like Tannehill has all these physical gifts, but he never really uses them to the best of his abilities. And he really can't feel. He has to have the greatest feel for the game. That worries me about Daniel Jones because I see a little bit of that in him, especially his last year in college. You really didn't see that. Also, he has a really bad injury history. I don't know, especially for a big guy, it's interesting to see that from him. So those are 2 huge red flags for me. Even though he has the ability to do that, the off the script stuff, and you see it in his games, his game tape. You see that a lot, but I just feel like he can do it a little bit more. And he's definitely not the open field runner that Josh Allen is. So to compare the two, I think they're very similar in builds and physical abilities, and especially their college career. But they're definitely different. They have totally different play styles. And I guess turnovers aren't a huge issue for me. I feel like Daniel, a lot of people make fuss of his decision making, but a lot of the time he's just trying to make a play because Duke sucks as a football program. News alert to everybody: Duke is terrible at football, and he's had to really, if he was in Ohio State, his numbers would be way better. And obviously Dwayne Haskins is the other guy I want to talk about. He doesn't have the off-script ability that you want. He really doesn't make plays off script, but he can throw people open. He can make plays within the pocket. You're just going to have to really make sure he has a good offensive line in front of him and some people to throw to for him to be super successful. But if you can do that for him, which you should do for any quarterback, by the way, just build the team the right way. I'm not saying that's a negative against him. That's just something a team should do. I think he'll have a lot of success in the National Football League. I just don't see the off-the-script plays that I want, the playmaking, elevate the talent around you that I want to see from a franchise quarterback. I just don't see that from him. He's very much a pocket passer. I just don't see that ability like from a Kyler Murray or Tua. Those guys provide an offense where they can really elevate Aaron Rodgers it, to use a term, and really just elevate the talent around him. I just don't see that from Dwayne. And that's the big. But he can be very successful on the next level if you just surround him with a good roster. Reminds me a lot of Josh Rosen in that way. Not really going to elevate anybody, but if you put a good roster around him, he can be very, very successful. Not to compare Dwayne to a Hall of Famer, and not because, and I don't. He really reminds me of Warren Moon when he was in college. Like, I remember watching a Football Life. I think it was definitely a year. Probably, I don't want to say years ago. Probably was though. When they were showing his college tape and his CFL tape and stuff like that, and watching some of the old Oilers games, which, believe it or not, I do. You know, some people listen to podcasts, but I like to put on old NFL games to listen to. I've seen the Dolphins Super Bowl a lot, but I like to listen to them and like offhand watch them. But he reminds me a lot of Warren Moon, and I'm obviously not old enough to have seen Warren Moon's career, but I've seen some of his old games, and he has that in him. He just reminds me a lot of Warren. And Warren didn't really elevate the talent around him. He just he always pretty much had a really good, especially in Houston. They always had great teams. They just really could never put it together and come together as a team. It was their problem, but he always had a good roster. But obviously he took full advantage of that and was a Hall of Fame quarterback. But just it really matters what you surround him with. But Daniel, I feel like he has potential more than substance, I guess you could say. But I do like what I've seen from him. I mean, the man is strong. He can run around, throws an accurate football. He throws, in my opinion, the best deep ball in college football. Maybe Tua throws a better one, but he's definitely up there. He throws a beautiful deep ball. And he has the arm strength, by the way. He gets it there. But he has the touch, dude. There's something about him. Am I 1,000% sure he's going to work out? Nope. I definitely do not have 100% confidence in him. There's only few people that I have ever really had that with, but Tua is one of them. Like I said, if we just pick best player available in this draft and do what we got to do in this draft, I'm fine with that. And if that means we don't draft a quarterback, fine. As long as we get Tua, if we don't do that, then I am 100%. I will jump on that train right now, dude. And I guess next, I watched a lot of Drew Lock. Drew Lock has disappointed the balls out of me. Granted, it doesn't have a great supporting cast. I just don't see anything that he does well enough to be like, yeah, you do that great to be an NFL starter. Like, Dwayne Haskins is a really good pocket passer. Daniel Jones, beautiful deep ball. Like, he can really push the ball down the field. Drew Lock, really don't know what you do super, super well. Super inaccurate at times, inconsistent. Sometimes decision making isn't the greatest. Supporting cast was not good. I just don't see a first rounder, in my opinion, in Drew Lock. Now, he does remind me a little bit of Derek Carr, but I don't know. I just don't see it. Will Grier, I'm sick and tired. Listen, I don't want to stomp on dreams. I don't see it, dude. I really do not see whatever the heck is talking about. I 1,000% could be wrong. I just don't see it. His release is terrible. He doesn't have the greatest arm in the world. His athletic ability, his off-the-script ability, his elevated, especially on the NFL level, I don't see it. He's not a better pocket passer than I'm not going to say Daniel Jones, but he's definitely not a better pocket passer than Dwayne Haskins. And I'm talking about a friend, like I just said, I'm talking about somebody we can trust in for years to come. And if that means trading up to get him, then God, so be it. I'm not doing any of that for Will Grier, but Dwayne Haskins, you could probably, if you sat me down in a war room and said, listen, this is the plan we have for this guy, I'm not opposed to that, but not for Will Grier. Definitely not for Will Grier. Let's get into the fan Q&A because we're almost out of time. I had to upload this late at night because obviously, things happen, so I messed it up. Hopefully we can actually see how many questions you guys got in. 16. Hopefully we can answer these in 10 minutes. Alright. This first question comes from Ron. He says, I have Eric Bieniemy or the enemy. I'll just call him Eric Bieniemy. I can't say his name. As my top choice for the head coach for several seasons. One, he is an Andy Reid disciple at several seasons. Really, Ron. This question comes from Ron. One, he's an Andy Reid disciple. Two, both Peterson and Nagy are showing amazing results from the Reid coaching tree. What do you think of it different? Who is your leading guy? For reference, my top guys in order: Eric, Vic, Chris, Darren, and Munchak. I just don't see what the heck he did so special there. And I could be wrong, and to be honest with you, I would be okay with me being wrong on that one. I just don't see it. I don't see what he did that was so good in Kansas City. Like I said, I think they still have that success without him. This next question comes from Ron. He says, I guess this is his quarterback rankings going into the draft. He says, I have the quarterbacks ranked like this. 1, Kyler Murray. 2, Dwayne Haskins. 3, Drew Lock. 4, Easton Stick. Taylor Cornelius. And Tyree Jackson. I am not a quarterback guru by any stretch, but I do better than Kiper and others. I left off guys with pea-shooter for arms who also show slow progression reads. Have you took time to watch all of 22 or any of these guys? If so, what do you think of how I have the list? I cannot talk about Easton Stick, Taylor Cornelius, or Tyree Jackson. I have not watched enough to even give you any kind of critique of them. But Kyler, obviously, he's my favorite out of it. If he decides to go, he's my favorite. Dwayne Haskins, I like a lot. I still feel like you have to build a good team around him. He's not, like I said, off the script, elevation of talent, all that other stuff. He can throw people open, but I just don't. If you have an 8-8 roster, I don't see him being better than 8-8. Drew Lock, I'm just like, that's basically how I feel about Drew Lock. And then the other guys I really don't know. But my top 3 is pretty similar to yours. I have Kyler at 1. I would have Dwayne at 2. I would have 3 Daniel Jones. That would be my top 3. 4 probably Will Grier. This next question comes from Ron. He says, who are your top 5 signings/re-signings for us? I have Wake, Hayes. This question comes from Ron if I wasn't clear. Wake, Hayes, extend Tunsil, Grant, Drake. Then offensive tackle, Ty. Does that say Nishki? Defensive end, DeMarc Nishki? Nishi. God, I cannot. I don't know why. I'm terrible with names. DeMarcus Lawrence. I know there's more than 5, but for me, these are priorities. I feel like Wake is under contract for 2019. I would go after Lawrence since I don't think we should do any of that. I think we got to build through the draft. I don't think getting big names like that's a win now move to me, Ron. And I just don't think that's the direction we're going in. I think we're just going young and through the draft. This next question comes from Ron. Let's cut all that dead fat. I'm talking Danny, Josh. Just cut it all out because we're starting over. Ron says Miami interviewed defensive coordinator Saints Allen, former head coach of the yes, I know Raiders. How do you feel if he gets hired? I would puke and then put all my Dolphin stuff in a far back of the closet. Yes, I agree with that. I would just probably give up and loving things anymore, and love doesn't exist at that point. Ron, this next one comes from Ron. He says, I think the Dolphins should interview Bruce Arians. Not sure why he isn't on the list. Your thought? He just doesn't want our job because we're in a rebuild mode. He wants somewhere where he can win now. Bruce is one of my favorite coaches of all time. I love him so much. I thought he was a good commentator too. So he's just a great mind, and I love him to death. His offenses, I love the way he wants to push the ball down the field, be super aggressive, take deep shots. Old Al Davis Raiders type stuff. I love it. This next comes from Ron again. Again, this is at 2 o'clock in the morning, so everybody who asked the question, God bless you for that, because I uploaded this at 2 o'clock in the morning. Ron says, what is your thoughts on Mike Tannenbaum? I mean, technically he's supposed to have been resigned. I think he should have been fired last year, especially when Kansas City fired Ken Dorsey. Here's what I want to say about that situation. I read it. He has nothing to do with anything football related. Okay, like, why isn't he just straight fired, dude? Why isn't he fired? He did the worst job out of any of them. He had Dennis Hickey. He had all of these different guys come through. He is the problem, dude. He's terrible at his job. If everybody's like, he got hired because he can he's great at salary cap and he can negotiate contracts. Whoop-de-doo. He can't draft players. He can't build a team. Why the heck is he in that position? There should be a position just for him called negotiator. That's it. That's all you get to do. I don't want you talking to Chris at all. You have a restraining order. Do not come within 10 feet of Chris Greer at all. And if you try to talk to him, you will be escorted off the premises. It is a crime that Adam got fired and he didn't. But when I saw that article, it was really reassuring to hear that he's going to literally have nothing to do with anything. And for some reason, it was just basically he resigned. It's basically just a less, I guess, shameful thing. Which isn't, was there any shame? What's shameful is what you put on the field every year. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, would you want us to sign Darrell Williams in free agency and then move James to right guard? Dude, that's a win now move. Unless we were drafting a young quarterback this year, I would be for that. Of just building the most talented offense we possibly can. Especially how the league is now. It's just about scoring. And I feel like as fans, we deserve that. We need something for fans to go watch. And we would win a lot of regular season games just because of that. If we had a really high-powered offense. So I would be with that if we knew we were going to take in the draft, which God knows we don't. But maybe that's by the time the free agency comes around, maybe we have a plan of what we want to do through the draft. We have a quarterback that we like, we want to build around him, stuff like that. If we had some kind of plan like that, then I would be for getting people like that in free agency. But if not, then no, we're just built through the draft. Ron asked me who would I re-sign. Jawan James is a huge priority for me. I feel like he's a good, solid tackle, which is very hard to find. Corporate Gamer says, why don't you like Drew Lock? He has potential and looked great in his bowl game against a good blitz team in Oklahoma State. I just, like I said, I don't know what the heck he does so well. He's got a quick release. He reminds me a lot of Derek Carr, but he's had a pretty high turnover clip for college. I mean, so did Andrew Luck, but there have been other quarterbacks that have turned them, like Josh Allen, that have worked out. So it's really, I mean, he doesn't have a good supporting cast. I don't know. I just want to watch him. I just don't see anything that's so special about him. He's got a huge arm on him, quick release. He reminds me a lot of Derek Carr. He's a pretty good athlete, but he's definitely a pocket passer, and he doesn't really throw a super accurate football, and he hasn't since he's been there in Missouri. He has played SEC football for 2 years now, so that's a good thing for him. So he's got the experience, but I don't know. I just don't see, and I probably am wrong. I don't know, but he definitely reminds me a lot of Derek Carr. Tony says, "What are your some?" And I guess obviously we would love to have a quarterback like that, but I don't know. I just don't see it. Tony says, what are some moves you want to see this offseason? We got, 3 minutes left? Sorry, can we leave off on that one? I guess we'll leave off on that one. Corporate Gamer, you asked like 2 or 3 more questions. I appreciate you. Thank you for commenting at 2 o'clock in the morning. But what offseason moves would I make? Very little in free agency. I would definitely look into the cornerback market to match up with Xavier. Some of the names that I like: Trevor Williams from LA, Steven Nelson from Kansas City. Even though he played on a bad defense, he's a pretty good cover guy. They play a lot of man single high safety, which is really tough for a corner, and he did a pretty decent job. Grady Jarrett, I like a lot. I think he's a great interior player. there's a couple like younger guys coming off their rookie contract, people that I like, but a lot of those moves are win now moves. But maybe we can get some of those guys. Who knows? So yeah, that's gonna be it, guys, for this episode. I can't wait for next week's episode. Hopefully, we got a head coach. We can talk about more of the future of the franchise, and let me know what you think about the quarterbacks from this class. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week.